with the latest on the corporate front, all the market trends, expert opinion, and sound business advice. It is your unique window into the business world, direct from the heart of China.
Hello and welcome to Biz Today. I'm Zhao Yang in Beijing. Coming up, we will have half an hour of business news and analysis. On today's show, global leaders have gathered in Peru for the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Forum, and trade and investment talks are top of the agenda. And Chinese lawmakers have approved a bill to raise the local government debt ceiling by 6 trillion yuan. So what impact will it have on the Chinese economy? And now let's begin with our top story. The 31st APEC Economic Leaders Week is in Lima, the capital city of Peru. Chinese President Xi Jinping attends the meeting. The Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation, or APEC, is a leading forum that promotes trade, investment, economic growth, and regional cooperation. Its 21 member economies account for almost half of the world's trade, nearly 40% of the global population, and about 60% of the world's GDP. So what are the top issues for this year's APEC meeting? What could APEC do to enhance economic cooperation to promote inclusive and sustainable growth? And what is China's role in it? For more on this, join us on the line now are Professor Qu Qiang, Fellow of Belt and Road Research Center at Minzu University of China, Dr. Zhou Mi, Senior Research Fellow at Chinese Academy of International Trade and Economic Cooperation, and also Yan Liang, Professor of Economics, Willamette University. So Yan, I will start with you. This year's APEC theme is Empower, Include, and Grow. So the focus is on sustainability and resilience, empowering the vulnerable and promoting digital opportunities and growing economies. So how do you explain this theme?
Right. So I think these themes are very well crafted and really help to sort of think about and navigate through the challenges facing developing countries and countries in general in today's world. So the emphasis of the meetings are to promote trade and investment connectivity. And I think this is very important in the context of the globalization and the increasing fragmentation in the world. And the second main agenda is to promote innovations, especially digital connectivity and digital economy. And again, I think it goes without saying, these are really important, not only to push forward productivity growth and also just more sustainable growth in the future. And then last but not the least, as you mentioned, is a sustainable and also inclusive economic development. So sustainability is a main theme. This is where countries will be able to move forward amid the global climate change challenges. And inclusive development, I think, is also very important for many developing countries where their economies are separated into formal and informal economies. And so I think a lot of these inclusivity is trying to make the economy in a more sort of formal employment, formal sector, and also allow some of the small and medium-sized enterprises, which oftentimes are the backbone of the economy, to partake in that economic growth and drive the economic growth forward. So I think all these themes are very well crafted, and they really can help to guide countries to cooperate and to move forward.
So, Dr. Zhou Mi, we are going through a time right now of major economic and geopolitical challenges. So what does APEC need to do to enhance economic cooperation to promote the inclusive and sustainable growth?
Well, as you mentioned, that geopolitical tensions becoming very important issues in the global governance and also interfere with the international trade and investment. But how can we deal with the situation? I mean, it's not only about the political and the diplomatic efforts to try to address the challenges and meet the demands of different sides, but also how can we improve that with a better support for the possible economic cooperation among these regions? I think it is very impressive if we are going to help the peoples to have a better life by better cooperation. And APEC is such a very important platform that provides so many opportunities for the different economies, no matter bigger or smaller. They can sit together to discuss their demands, and their abilities can be improved by the cooperation. So the APEC is a very important thing. If we are having more benefits, or our profits are well connected, we will have more reasons to say that we can stop the tensions between the different economies and trying to find a better way to solve these challenges.
So, Professor Chu Qiang, so what do you think is China's role in it? What kind of progress do you see, in some of those key areas where China itself has made a progress, things like energy transition, technological cooperation, as well as digital economy and finance?
Well, I think China is a major facilitator, promoter, and initiator in many of the development agenda in South America and Latin America. China and Latin America has a long way to go back in a cooperation. We've done a lot of great things together. And I think China has a very important power or magic that is it's spill over of its capacity or helping adjacent regions to achieve modernization and industrialization. Well, I think China has done its own industrialization probably around the year of 2010 or 2008. And then we've been seeing that China has been helping lots of the ASEAN nations in digitalization and green energy transition and in many other kind of transportation projects. And I think, well, according to our historic pattern, and this time is about China and Latin America. Latin America as a continent joined in APEC probably later once the organization is found. And after that, I think Latin America showed great potential in development. Well, usually in the international layout of the development, I think Latin America always shows up like a raw material provider or energy provider. But now I think Latin America have a great ambition to modernize, industrialize its whole economy. For example, in Chile, they wanted to have more of the digitalization of their own e-commerce or development. And also in Peru, besides all kinds of the copper mining and raw material, they also want to have high-speed railways. They want to have the e-commerce platform, and also they want to have their own high-tech manufacturing, shifting themselves from a raw material exporter to a modernized manufacturer. And plus, they want to develop the modern service industry. For example, in international trade, financial services. So I think this ambition actually can meet with Chinese capacity. So China would like to jump in to help all these development partners to achieve a higher achievement.
And so, regarding the infrastructure, China has actually played a key role in the development of Peru's transport infrastructures, such as the Chancay Port. So this is also a project of the Belt and Road Initiative. So how does this enhance the trade among the Pacific Rim countries?
Right. So I think this is a major infrastructure that would really help to improve seaport transportation and really help to connect the Southern American countries with China. We know that this port is a deep sea port, which means a lot of container ship is able to make access and to be able to ship goods out of Peru and also nearby countries. And so it's not just Peru as one country would benefit from it, but Ecuador, Colombia, Brazil, for example, are able to utilize the port and to send their products to China. And I think that's very significant because we're talking about somewhere between 10 to 15, 20 days of saving of the transport time. And this is very essential when it comes to, a lot of agricultural productions, the products that are shipping out from these Southern American countries. In the past, there was no direct route. They have to go through, Mexico and go through the port there. But now they have the direct sort of the sea route to Asia, and which is one of the largest export markets for many of these countries. And when we talk about farm products, agricultural products, these savings on the transportation is very essential, right, to preserve the freshness of the products. And so I think that is very important. The other way also, when Asian economies export their industrial materials, industrial products to Southern American countries, that also save time, save money and costs. So I think this is going to be a great project that helps to enhance connectivity and help to promote trade. And that's why I think, not just Peru and China, but many of APEC countries will benefit from them, from the port. And I think the similar, project goes far beyond just the port, right? China also have maintained upgraded roads in countries like Chile. So all of these, I think, are very important. These hard infrastructure really help to improve connectivity and promote trade, investment, job creation, and so on and so forth.
And Yan, so people also talk about a free trade agreement. So for free trade, where do you see the significant opportunities for economic cooperation and growth in the Asia-Pacific region? I'm thinking, especially of the development of digital infrastructure.
Yes, absolutely. I think, first of all, yes, there's also the digital infrastructure, as you just mentioned. We know there's a wide digital divide in the developed world and developing world. Developed countries have 90% of internet penetration. Developing world only has about 57% as of the end of 2021. So what China has been doing is, through, for example, Huawei's investment, it has really upgraded, the 5G network and helped to promote internet connectivity and promote the digital economy, especially for, small and medium-sized companies to be able to do e-commerce all around the world. And so I think that is very helpful in terms of laying those infrastructure and provide the technology and training to facilitate that. On the other hand, I think there's also really momentum that is being built to facilitate more free trade agreements. For example, China and Peru have just updated their free trade agreement, which would help to boost the commerce by at least 50% between the two countries. And we also know that Chile has applied to join the RCEP. And China, of course, has applied to join the CPTPP, which included a lot of these APEC economies. And China is accelerating the process of trying to join, this broader, trade agreements. So I think a lot of momentums are being made, both in terms of the infrastructure, the technology, as well as in terms of these free trade agreements. I think those are really encouraging signs, right? Despite that there are countries that are trying to kind of withdraw from that global multilateral trading system. And yet I think, all these economies are making up their minds and trying to work together to boost trade and investment connectivity.
So Dr. Zhou Mi, so what do you think? Yan mentioned a lot of momentum here and encouraging signs. So what do you think?
Yeah, actually, I agree with Yan that, the logistics is one of the very important problems that all the economies have to address. Well, as for the Pacific countries like China and Peru, we do have a lot of possibilities of establishing a better connections between us. And that is also helpful if we are able to introduce some of the digital technology, like to trying to give the information of the logistics directly and in time to the customers. So we can do a better planning, and that is also helpful for us to establish a better connections with the Pacific Island countries. I have to say that because these countries are far from the center of the world, so we can bring them more opportunities. Well, for the digital corporation, there are still a lot of technology are used by the technology companies while they are certifying that the consumers, they may have a better experiences on using of this technology to facilitate their consumption process and improve their ability to dealing with the financial assets. So I would argue that the integration of the economies by the free trade agreement is a very certain framework, and that is also predictable for the companies to make a longer-term decisions on what they want to do in the coming years.
And so, Professor Qu Qiang, when we talk about digital cooperation, we have to mention the digital divide. So that is the risk of some countries not making progress as fast in the digital development as others. So how should we overcome that?
Well, I think, like the slogan of this conference has mentioned, empowerment, include, and grow. That is how we actually can cross the digital spasm. Well, right now, I think we have been facing the 2.0 version of the problems. Well, in 1.0 version, I think the major problem of the digital divide comes from the infrastructure. For example, do you have enough of the signal towers? Do you have the 3G or 5G technology? Do you have enough of the smartphone penetration or internet penetration? I think for most of the emerging markets, this kind of infrastructure-related issues has already been bygone. It's okay that everybody can get access to social media, everybody can use the internet for sure. And mobile phone is not quite a luxury product anymore. But the problem right now is that actually we've been divided even further with the developed nations. For example, AI. AI actually, if you take a look at the whole global scenario, we only have several players concentrated in one or two countries. For example, America, for example, China, several or just a few countries in European Union, they have their own power to develop AI, and everybody knows AI probably is going to be most important for driving forward the whole digital world and the digital growth. But for all the emerging markets, they probably do not have the privilege to get access to the AI development, to get access to the calculation power, and also to the green energy. because if you know that every time we want to try one of the big language model and large language model, you will find out the training power consumptions is really, really large. For example, like $100,000 for half day of the training of the big data. So that is basically unaffordable for most of the emerging market. And if we are allowing this trend to go on and on, we're going to see most of the emerging market, especially the least developed nation, will be left behind. So I think what we can do right now is, I think, China's proposal. We should have the green energy because green energy is basically free. You get the free sun, you get a free wind, and then we can power up your distributed, power stations, solar farms, and tide farms and wind farms. And then we can use this green energy, cheap energy, to power up the emerging markets, AI industry, internet industry, and also China have a very affordable digitalization infrastructure. So, for example, China's signal towers, China's all kinds of the operation equipment, and all these can be shared. And this not only by selling them the equipment, but also China is a very active, share of all this kind of the IP and also technology itself, and also about empowering themselves not only with technology but also with the talents. We've been looking at many of the young people education programs are going on, and trying to help these countries to nurture their own engineer, AI developer, as well as the digitalization platform operators, e-commerce traders. And all these are coming after all these meetings, and we're going to see a major younger generation in Latin America, which digitalization is coming up. And also they're going to become a new force in the digital world in the future.
Well, we're speaking with Professor Qu Qiang, Fellow of Belt and Road Research Center at Minzu University of China, Dr. Zhou Mi, Senior Research Fellow at Chinese Academy of International Trade and Economic Cooperation, and also Yan Liang, Professor of Economics, Willamette University. And after a short break, Chinese lawmakers have approved a bill to raise the local government debt ceiling by 6 trillion yuan. Stay with us. You are listening to Biz Today. I'm Zhao Yang in Beijing. China's top legislature has approved a bill to raise the local government debt ceiling by 6 trillion yuan, or more than $830 billion. The new policy aims to ease the debt repayment strains on China's local governments, enabling them to better develop the economy and ensure people's livelihoods. Our Huang Yue has the details.
China's highly anticipated fiscal support policy has been announced with the aim to replace the existing hidden debt of local governments.
This increase, issued in the form of local government special purpose bonds, will be rolled out over a period of 3 years. By the end of 2024, the special debt ceiling will rise from $4 trillion to nearly $5 trillion.
China's Finance Minister Lan Fuan says from this year through 2028, over $110 billion will be relocated annually from local government budgets to swap up hidden debt. And this approach could cumulatively replace $560 billion of hidden debt. Additionally, hidden debts related to Shanting Town reconstruction maturing in 2029 and beyond, totaling $280 billion, will still be repaid according to the original contracts.
With these policies working in unison, the total hidden debt that needs to be resolved by 2028 will be significantly reduced from nearly $2 trillion to $230 billion. As we estimated, local governments can fully manage debt resolution with these supportive policies.
The minister explains the plan comes amid a backdrop of economic strain, including lower than expected tax revenue and decreased land sales income. These factors have heightened the challenges the local government faces in managing their debt. The finance minister said the proposed large-scale debt swap showed a significant shift in how China handles its local government debt, moving from reactive crisis management to proactive debt resolution. It also focuses on comprehensive risk mitigation rather than isolated measures, seeking a balanced strategy that not only prevents financial risks, but also supports economic growth. Huang Yue, CGTN, Beijing.
So, Professor Chu, China's top legislature has approved a bill to raise the ceiling on the local government debt by 6 trillion yuan. So, how will this impact the Chinese economy? And tell us more details. How will this operate?
Well, basically, this is more like a trade-in program. You see, the local government actually borrowed all this local debt like 5 years ago or even 10 years ago. So at that time, I think the interest rate in a corridor in China is rather high. Usually they borrow at the rate of 6% or 7% or even higher. Sometimes for the local enterprises belongs to the local government, they're probably borrowing at like 10% of the interest rate, which will add into a very huge burden for the interest rate payment. But right now, I think this 6 trillion yuan of the trade-in program is you can borrow the money as a local government. You can borrow the money from the central government and then use this money to pay back what you owed to the home market. And then you try to pay this debt again with a lower interest rate, because if you take a look at the LPR, it's around 2.5%. So which will much lower the burden of the interest rate payment by the local government. We're calculating probably in the next 5 years, the local government can save about 800 billion yuan of the extra interest rate payment. So that will help the local government. But I think this is not adding into a extra more of the debt, because this is more like trade-in, and which allows the local government to exchange their existing debt. So I don't think there's going to be a pressure with inflation to go on. And also, people are saying, okay, if there's no bigger scale of the borrowing from the central government to help the local government, are they gonna, is there gonna be enough money for them to, pay back the debt and then have extra dollars in their extra yuans in their pocket to, to do some more extra development program? My answer is yes, they will do that, because if you understand the basic, the 101 of the economics is that all this debt and the payment are circulating. So they will pay up their debt, and then this money will not disappear, and they will be utilized by the market, and they will be utilized by the local enterprises, the local platform, and then circulating back to the pocket of the local government, and then local government will pay them out again. So with this circulating, we're calculating in the next 5 years, probably we're looking at least 4 times of circulating, based on the current size. So they're going to be a major boost for the local development, not only by paying up the debt, but also to help them, for example, purchasing the affordable housing and doing more of the infrastructure and supporting the local tech-savvy enterprises, the SMEs. So I think that will help China to revise trend in the next 1 or 2 years, and we're going to see a major boost in 3 or 5 years.
So, what do you think? Which sectors are likely to benefit the most, and how effective will this help the economy?
Right. So first of all, we know that the numbers that have been mentioned on the November 8th statement is that, yes, the debt ceiling of the local government will be raised by 6 trillion yuan. And then there's another 800 billion annual increase in the special bond issuance over the next 5 years. There's also the guarantee of repayment of 2 trillion yuan of the hidden debt from the shantytown redevelopment. So we're talking about a total about 12 trillion. And so like Qiqiang mentioned, this is going to save a lot of interest payments by the local governments. It also really helped them to be more transparent and to manage their debt in a better way. And so I think when it comes to the immediate beneficiary of this, one, of course, is the local governments. They're able to save some on interest cost. They're able to issue special bonds to support certain projects. They're able to, issue more bonds so then they get some bond revenues that they can pay their arrear payments to their public servants or their suppliers and so on and so forth. So I think all of these will help local governments to manage their finance, to help them to, spend more. And that is definitely helpful for the local economy. And I think the second beneficiary is really the banking system, because a lot of these local government funding vehicles are either selling the bonds or they're borrowing from banks. And so I think that if you are able to swap out these loans with the better, risk sort of weighted bonds on the balance sheets of the banks, this will be helpful, right? Because the special bond investment, it has a lower risk weights compared to the bank loans that are taken out by the LGFVs. So the banking sector will indirectly, in a way, or directly for that matter, benefit from this. And other than that, I think a wide range of sectors, including, I think, the real estate sector, right? If the local governments do have more fiscal space to purchase some of these housing inventory, this is going to help to improve the real estate market. Overall, I think the benefits will be wide-ranging. So what I'm hoping, and I think, again, Minister Lan has indicated or suggested that there may be more fiscal support down the road, especially depending on the very complex and evolving international environment. So hopefully there will be more fiscal support that directly comes from the central government to help the local governments. And I think that would be a tremendous boost for the economy.
So, Dr. Zhou Mi, what other fiscal policies do you think that China is considering to boost the economy?
Yeah, I agree with Yan and Professor Qu that we have a lot of support for the local governments to improve its abilities. And I don't think that is only about this one, but it is also about, what the targets has been changed. So the local governments can do more to improve the higher quality development. As you mentioned about the other policies, I think that may be possible for us to discuss about the tax systems, about how can we distribute the income from the central government and the local government, and how can we benefit, the development of the real estate, which is a very important income resource especially for the local governments. So there are a lot of new policies. I don't think that is the only way that we have to have more impact by the government. I mean, that is also the temporary. In my understanding, if we start the engine, the market can do better to support them resilient in the coming future, and it's also helpful for us to have a better position in the competition in the next round of global competition.
Well, we're speaking with Dr. Zhou Mi, Senior Research Fellow at Chinese Academy of International Trade and Economic Cooperation, Professor Qu Qiang, Fellow of Belt and Road Research Center at Minzu University of China, and also Yan Liang, Professor of Economics, Willamette University. And that's all the time we have for this edition of Biz Today. I'm Zhao Yang in Beijing. Thank you so much for listening.